Didn't think BC had it in them? Well, they just shocked the world.
You are Locked On Boston College Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Boston, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Thank you all for joining me for today's special postcast as Boston College defeats Michigan State 23-19 at a very rainy Alumni Stadium. This was quite the win for the Eagles as they looked sloppy at times. They made lots of mistakes. They didn't capitalize on things that they should have, but still found a way to win, which seems to be the takeaway from everything with Bill O'Brien is that he's getting them to the place where they're going to win games. So 45,000 people, 44.5, whatever you want to call it, are here at the Red Bandana game. I'm here too. I have my green background on because I don't think I can get the the field behind me without making things look awkward. So BC, they fall behind early, and we see a lot of the mistakes that we've seen in the last few weeks. And I thought it was going to be the time where it came back to bite them in the butt. But we saw Ivan Savenko immediately shank a punt. Michigan State gets the ball in great field position. They are able to not do much with it, and they kick a field goal. BC's offense, they're able to, it takes a while for them to get things going, but once they get things going, especially in the second half, that's when things start really going. But the big takeaway from this game, the one thing that I think was the absolute ending factor for BC to win this was the 4 takeaways. 4 takeaways in this game for Boston College. That's what did it. And it ends with a takeaway. Max Tucker, who, I felt at times that he hasn't been great, makes a great play in the end zone to seal the win when it looked like Michigan State was about to just come back and score after a incredible 42-yard touchdown pass from Castellanos to Lewis Bond. So let's break all this down. Let's get into all the nitty-gritty of what we saw today. So let's go with the positives. What were the positives in this game? Well, first of all, they were able to run the ball. They were able to get the ball on the ground. They had Treshaun Ward, who had 102 yards, but he also had a turnover. That turnover at the beginning. I mean, if we're going to look at what BC did, you have to be able to talk about all the points that they left on the field. There were multiple plays and multiple drives that Boston College had an opportunity to gain a win, and they weren't able to do it. So that was part one. I think everyone's wanting to know, where is Kai Robichaux? I see it all in the comment section right now. I thought I saw him out there, but I got to tell you, with the Red Bandana uniforms, it was hard to see. But honestly, I thought Turbo Richard was the perfect running back for this game. Turbo had, one thing that I thought BC did really well on offense was those outside runs. They were getting to the outside corner and getting big plays. And I thought that was a big deal for the Eagles, like getting that ball, out to the perimeter. And I thought they should have done a little bit more than that. But you looked at what the offense could and couldn't do. It was wet. And I apologize that, as a media guy, I'm sitting in this nice, dry press box, and you guys are out there getting soaked. And so credit to all you dudes out there and women out there that sat through all that, because it was a great game and you guys deserved to see that win. So offensively, it took a long time for BC to get things going because we had the fumble by Ward. You saw a good run by Turbo Richard. I think was that his first or I think it's his second touchdown of the year. And he's going to be a favorite here at Boston College for years to come, I think. But BC goes down, and it felt like when you got to halftime that Michigan State was about to put them away. It felt like that they were going to, get the, it was that middle 8 again. They hit a field goal before halftime. They get to, get the ball back. But what happens after halftime? First play after halftime, it flips on a dime. They, great hit on the kickoff return, and they get the ball at the 6-yard line. But then, like everything Boston College, nothing goes easy. They get the ball at the 6, and Thomas Castellanos does his little dancing magic thing. And for the first time I think I've seen in a while, he has like a 15-yard loss, and I'm just waiting for Luca Lombardo to miss that field goal. He hits it. Next drive, Amari Jackson picks off Aiden Childs. BC then scores right after that, and they get the lead. But you go into the second, and later in the half, and it's that drive. BC's moving the ball at will. They get the ball in the red zone, and I'm like, okay, if they score here, they've been able. I know Aiden Childs made some good plays, but he also made a lot of mistakes. But I thought if they could score there, this game was going to be over. And they get the ball to the 1-yard line. We have a fumble, first of all. And I I'm in the press box. I couldn't see it. Looks like, from what I heard, it was like on the guy's back. So, BC recovered, but they don't get in. And then the play that wanted me to make me pull my hair out, which is they had 4th and 1 at the 1-yard line. And Thomas Castellanos lines up in the pistol. I don't know what Will Lawing was doing there. I hate when it's 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1 and you line up in either shotgun or pistol. Why? Why do you do that? That means you have to, instead of get 1 yard, you get 4 yards or 3 yards or whatever it is. Against a stout defense, like Michigan State was good. That was, I hated that. They should have done a tush push. They should have done, right under shotgun. I've seen them do, not shotgun, under center. I've seen them go under center before. I don't know why they were doing that, and they get stuffed. And then it felt like all the momentum went right back to Michigan State. However, BC's defense, I know there were plays that they gave up chunk plays, and some of those 3rd down conversions were maddening. They were absolutely maddening. And they still kept holding Michigan State to field goals. And field goals, the saying, they don't win you football games. If you're just hitting field goals, you're not going to win football games. And so back-to-back drives, I think it was they tied it and then they took the lead. BC gets the ball back. And BC, who had 20 receiving yards or passing yards, in that first half, all of a sudden in the second half, they're able to throw the ball. And they're able to get the ball down the field. They throw a 42-yard pass to Lewis Bond, touchdown. That was crazy. And the fans here, they lost their mind, and they deserve to. The student section here was incredible. They were, loud. They were, in the rain. They were doing everything you would ask them to do. And they acted like a big-time football program. So you get to the end of the game. You got Aiden Childs with 1 minute, 28 seconds, I think, they get the ball back. And he just starts carving up BC's defense again by hitting Jack Valen, their tight end, over and over and over again. And they're just marching down the field. He's getting 15 yards a chunk, 15 yards a chunk. They get the ball at about the 30-yard line, I believe it was. And I don't know what Childs was thinking, because he had plenty of time to do whatever he wanted to for on a bunch of different plays. He tries to go deep, and Max Tucker picks him off. I got to say, I'm not here to bash other teams' quarterbacks, but I thought Childs, all the good plays he had, he made some really bad reads, because he almost got picked off again, the drive earlier when Amari Jackson, and I forget who the other guy was, smashed into each other trying to both get on that ball. So that ends the game. BC kneels it 3 times. The students storm the field, and it's ecstasy in Chestnut Hill. Boston College improves to 3-1. In a moment, I want to go through some of the ups and downs of this game. I want to talk about the special teams and what are we doing here? And I want to give a shout out to someone on defense who I thought had an incredible game. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. eBay Motors has got you covered. With passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. With superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. This is Locked On Boston College, the Locked On Boston postcast. Excuse me. I'm AJ Black. I'm here in Chestnut Hill right now. I'm up in the press box. BC has just defeated Michigan State 23-19 in a thrilling win. One of the best games I've seen out of BC in years. I liked the SMU win last year, but there was something very cathartic about this win for the Boston College fan base because this was the Red Bandana game. And I talked about this earlier in the week about how important this game is to the BC community. And the fact that even though it was pouring rain out, and this game was miserable in terms of weather, it's still pouring right now while I'm recording right now. The fact that the fans stayed, the students stayed, the campus is rocking. I had a hard time getting into campus itself, just find a parking spot when I have one guaranteed here. This was big. This was big because the difference between going 3-1 and 2-2 is huge. Because if you lost this game, all we would be talking about all week long is all the missed opportunities Boston College had and how they could have, if they did things right, won this game. But now you see that BC is there. They won. They, took care of it at the end. They made the plays when they had to, and it's 3-1 going in against Western Kentucky. That feels a lot better, and that keeps the momentum going for Bill O'Brien. Because remember, there were 95 recruits here at Boston College, whether it was Laniel Hall or Marky Walbridge, both 4-star offensive linemen from Massachusetts. They got to see this. They got to see how special of a win this was, and that's big too. But for the fans, when Jeff Hafley was here, a lot of folks kind of started mailing it in because it was boring. Situational football was terrible. The fans are buying in on Bill O'Brien. You hear all the things about him, right? Like Bill O'Brien's building a monster. Bill O'Brien is doing all the right things. Falling to 2-2 in a game that was like, this is like Boston College all over again, really would have kind of taken a lot of the wind out of the sails. Like you just don't feel as good. I saw people on my message board on Eagle Insider that are like, oh, is this going to be another, this is just Boston College again. Well, Bill O'Brien again flipped the script. Bill O'Brien wins a game that BC didn't do anything to deserve at times, but made the plays when they need to. You saw the defense make 4 turnovers, force 4 turnovers, and more importantly, they kept Michigan State out of the end zone for most of the game. They were just forcing them to kick field goals. And I want to know who the heck these schools are between Missouri and Michigan State that are getting all these kickers while BC can't find anyone to kick. I want one of them. But I think in terms of just what this means to for the program and the future of this program is huge. Now, you could potentially, after next week, you got to play Western Kentucky and you got to beat them. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. But if you beat Western Kentucky, you're going into basically ACC season 4-1. Think about that again. When we started this season off, and we were talking about how hard the schedule was going to be, did anyone think we would escape the month of September at 4-1? I don't think anyone would have said that. And the fact that you only lost one game by 5 points, 6 points, that's incredible. That tells you that this program is heading in the right direction. So this win was crucial. And I want to shout out again, this is a guy that has had a monster season for Boston College, and that is Donovan Azaraku. There were parts of this game, and I don't have the stats. Actually, I do have the stat sheet in front of me. Let me pull it up. Donovan Azaraku had, my stat sheet doesn't have anything. Well, this isn't lame. He had a bunch of big plays. He was all over the place again. And I thought he had a monster game. And I thought at times the pressure on Aiden Childs was great to the point where, he's a mobile quarterback and it kind of came back at times to bite them in the butt too. So, I thought Azaraku, again, he's the leader of this defense and he continues to make big plays after big play. So I thought he was one of the biggest ones. And in a moment, I'm going to kind of wrap things up. I want to talk a little bit about Thomas Castellanos and what we saw in this game and why it was a different way for him to become a hero for Boston College fans. We'll get into all that in just a moment. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we're having something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Were you taking BC? I think the spread was down to like 4.5. This was a nail biter if you were betting on this one. All you got to do, though, if you're interested with Sunday football coming up tomorrow, just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. This is AJ Black. Thank you all for listening to this Locked On Boston postcast. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are the biggest show here on Locked On Boston, and I'm not humble bragging about this. Our show, based off some of the other shows that are on here, we smoke them. And this is great because this is a pro sports town. But all you Boston College fans, you've been hitting this up and liking our show. So make sure you subscribe because we're going to go live after every football game. And I think we're doing basketball too. And I can't wait to talk more about that when we get to the season there. So wrapping things up, this was a Tommy Castellanos masterpiece. He didn't make any huge mistakes. Now, he couldn't run the way he wanted to. But as we're seeing, defenses are starting to tune in on how to work against him. But the big thing is he is adapting to it. Now, Castellanos, his thing is, his check down on most plays is to run. And as we saw today, there wasn't a lot of times where he could run more than 5 or 6 yards. But his passing is what caught my eye. Even with it pouring rain out, and I know he only threw for 20 yards in the first half, but by the end of the game, he threw for I don't have it. What the heck? I don't have the most updated stat sheet. He threw for the touchdown that wins it. He had an excellent game. This was a great game for Thomas Castellanos in bad weather, but again, it cements him as a player that is going to go down as one of the best and most exciting in Boston College history. He did this without basically using his legs. Like, his runs were fine, but they weren't anything special. It was his passes that got Boston College this win. This was a big time showing for Thomas Castellanos, and especially that he did it at the very end. Like, he adapted. A lot of folks like to talk about coaching and how they adapt at halftime, and they're expecting all these adjustments and all these things. Remember, Boston College had 20 passing yards by halftime, and they won this game because of their passing at the end. That tells you that Castellanos adjusted and that Bill O'Brien and Will Long adjusted, and they earned a big win. No interceptions again. And more touchdown passes for Castellanos, who goes out and does what he needs to do. So what does this mean for Boston College? What does this win mean for the season? Well, Boston College is clearly going to be a bowl game team. I see people wondering if they would or wouldn't be a bowl team. They also, they're back into this, the swing of things in terms of, like, are they going to be a top 25 team? Are they going to be a team that could potentially pull off some big upsets? You saw, like, this week, UNC looked terrible. That Mac Brown might not even make it to the Boston College game. Syracuse looked bad. So there's a lot of meat on the bones left on the schedule. And you got a home game next week. You have a team that shouldn't be able to push you around off defensively like maybe Michigan State and Mizzou did. And that should be refreshing for this offense. But when you're looking at this team, I think that's a big thing. Now, one last thought before we go. Kai Robichaux. Is his injury, or I don't even know if it's an injury. I don't know what's going on. I have to say, I went live instead of going to the Bill O'Brien press conference because I wanted to talk about this because I think folks really wanted to get into it. And it's also really late and I'm going to fall asleep. No, I'm just kidding. But what's going on with Kai Robichaux? Is that a big deal if he misses time? Yeah, but not really. I mean, you don't want your running back room. You don't want to lose a lot of guys, but you get Turbo. And I think Turbo is going to be a star. I think this guy is really, really good. He's faster than Kai, and he's just got a knack for what's going on for BC. So I think when it all comes, thank you. When it all is said and done, I'm live in the booth. So I think you guys just saw a guy go by. I got the latest stat sheets. I got it's like it's kind of crazy behind me. So, um, you know, is Kai a loss of Kai be a big deal? I don't think so, but you don't want to lose more running backs. So you hope that he gets back soon. In terms of everything else, it looked like everyone else was healthy. Amari Jackson got banged up, but I think he came back like the next play. And so again, I want to go with this. It continues to show me that Craig Fitzgerald and this strength and conditioning coach, that whatever they're doing to keep these guys healthy is big, because it just seemed like every year by this point BC would have been losing guys left and right. And so they haven't. Now, actually, I have more I want to talk about. I'm not done yet. Don't go anywhere, because I want to talk about special teams too, because I thought special teams was going to actually blow this game open for Michigan State and cause BC to lose. We saw Ivan Savenko muff 2 punts. We saw a missed extra point, which was not Luca Lombardo's fault. That was a terrible snap, and I think it might have been Drew Kendall. It was lucky that the holder actually got the ball down. And so again, you had some issues there. What do you do about this punting? Because it's gonna come back and bite them at some point. I thought this was going to be the game it was, but it didn't. Thank goodness. What do you do? I told you guys on my show, Liam Connor came in and punted. I said that was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. So that happened. But does BC just stop punting? I think like at some point you got to start thinking about it, because unless you're at like your 20-yard line and you got to cross your fingers and hope the guy can get a punt off, it's brutal. It is brutal. And I don't understand how you have 4 punters on your team now, with Connor being a punter too, and you can't find a guy that can just consistently just at least get a punt off. That's got to be really frustrating for Bill O'Brien. And I don't, he's got an older Matt Turn was with Jeff Hafley. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Now, luckily, Lombardo ends up hitting a field goal at the end of the game. We see the fumble caused by special teams. So they ended up turning things around. But every time they go back to punt now, there was also a punt where I think it was a punt that Savenko had that he bobbled it too. That's not good. This is a big problem for BC. And, I know a lot of these guys are Hafley guys that are still there, but you got to imagine that Bill O'Brien's going to have to figure something out. And I don't know if it's going to be a fix this year. I can't think it would be. You're already almost into October. Will they be able to figure that out? I don't think so. So that's a big problem. I think it's a big problem that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of the season. So I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you all for listening. Hit that like button and subscribe to Locked On Boston Postcasts, where I do this all the time. We'll be back again next week when they play Western Kentucky. I'm going to be there as a fan, so it's going to be a little bit later because I got to get home before I can record. But I get my one game a year. I can go and do my thing. Thank you all so much for listening. Check me out at Locked On Boston College or at AJ Black 247, and I'll see you all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston Postcast.